call him, he'll come back.
I just wanted to ask a question
Can't quite
before.
hear you, Alex.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are any audience members online? I just wanted to ask a question.
Not yet.
Okay,
No.
Alex, let me turn this thing up.
on item 1102, I'm an adjacent landowner and I think I should probably declare conflict on that. So how does it work on a Zoom meeting? How do I leave the conversation?
Well, I can't quite hear you, but I think you're saying you may have a conflict. So
Well,
wait till
I
we
mean-
get to item 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have a conflict. I just think I should probably declare one as an adjacent landowner. But I just don't know, when you're doing it on a Zoom meeting, how do you want me to leave the meeting?
We can mute you, and both audio and visually, I think. Does that make sense, Alex?
Yeah, I can just,
Well,
I mean,
I'll
I
leave
can,
it up to Alex. Once you declare, then Alex will mute you.
all righty. Perfect.
Alex, we can't hear anything on this.
I'm going to go live now. So just bear with us, and then I'll run into the room to help you.
Okay. Thanks.
So we just have one person in attendance. I'll just go help you with your technology issue here. Just one.
Can't hear a thing.
I wasn't aware that the move to the new building, I was down the parking lot. Wow, not again. Somebody meeting the big one. This is what you do after.
Fair?
Thanks, all. We're on now.
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sam. I'm the chair of the committee. Welcome all members and members of the public that may be online to our meeting number 20-11, November 19th, 2020. Planning, Review, and Adjustment Committee. The first item is the approval of the agenda. So I would look for a motion for that.
Second it. Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Approval of the agenda.
I move we accept the agenda as written.
Seconded by Brian. Ready for question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The agenda is, I should have asked if anybody had any additions to it, but they would have said so, I guess. So item number 2 is the approval of the minutes from our meeting on the 15th of October, meeting number 2010. Have all members received copies of the minutes, reviewed them? Anybody have any issues, errors, omissions, corrections?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the minutes from the October 15th meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ben. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes hereby adopted, approved. And number 3 is declaration of conflict of interest. Anybody wish
Mr. Chair, I'm going to be declaring on item 20-1102 just as an adjacent landowner, probably proper for me to do that.
Okay, thank you, Bill. So Bill has declared a conflict for the second item on our variances. So we'll move now to anybody else have a declaration? Okay. We'll move to item number 4, variance applications. Item 20-11-01, and we'll look for the presenter on that.
Yep. Just one moment. Good evening, everyone. This is Elizabeth Neve, variance application for 350 Carlton Street. It's a consideration of a height variance to the town of St. Andrews zoning bylaw to permit a fence in the SR zone. And this is the property. This would have been the beginning of summer. I wanted to show you this property in this picture as this bush here at the front. I wanted to show you that this is going to shade some of the view from Carlton Street. So this is the property 350. So file was opened on September 11th, 2020 when the applicant applied for a development permit. The applicant was aware that permit was required and placed supports in the ground. Construction ceased when the applicant was aware. And the property is zoned SR, service residential, under the town of St. Andrews zoning bylaw, and fences are permitted use with a maximum height of 6.6 feet. The applicant proposes a fence with a maximum height of 8 feet. And the proposed fence will be behind the applicant's home. A small section of fencing will be visible from Carlton Street. The applicant would like to grow a vegetable and fruit garden within the enclosure. Deer fencing has failed in the past to keep the deer out. The dimensions of the fence would be 40 feet wide, 40 feet deep by 8 feet high. And notice was sent to adjacent property owners. I've not received any comments. So this is a picture on site. You can see the bush that is out front that I was speaking about. So this would be the section of the fence that you do see from Carlton Street. And this would be, you can see in the picture, there's a property pin. So I wanted to show you, it is 6 feet, 6.4 feet away from this adjacent property, and it ranges from 6 to 100 feet from the other property lines. And you see in the picture here that there was deer fencing up prior, did not keep the deer out. So the supports here you see they're in the ground. No construction has gone any further after the applicant was aware. And so the section, the 40 by 40, it will be fenced in. It will be with wire mesh, so it won't, the sight lines, you know, you'll be able to see right through it, and grow vegetables in one part and some fruit in the other. So PRAC is being asked to approve a height variance for the proposed fence in the SR zone. Maximum height per the zone is 6.6 feet, and other zones do have maximum heights of 8.2 feet. The fence will act as a guard enclosure to protect the plants from the deer, ranging from 6 to 100 feet from the rear and sidelines. SNBSC has denied requests for fence variances where closing the property, but as this is closing a garden, the staff's opinion is the variance is reasonable, whereas, you know, closing a whole property in, you are encroaching on property lines. Staff recommends the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission approve the height variance for the proposed fence as it is reasonable and desirable for the parcel of land. It is keeping with the general intent of the town of St. Andrews zoning bylaw and municipal bylaw. And that's it. Thank you.
Alex, does the applicant wish to present?
Chair, Liv. Sorry, just
of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission approved.
The recording was playing in the background. Liz Neve is online here. Just I'll promote her to a speaking role, and Liz, you're going to have to unmute yourself lightly.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi there. Yes, thank you. I don't think there's really anything else I want to say. Judy's done a great job. I'll just emphasize that we've been trying to do a vegetable garden for probably close to 10 years. We've used the metal poles and the plastic mesh to go around it. And every year we have had deer rip right through that several times. We keep sewing up the holes and they rip new ones, and sewing up the holes and they rip new ones. So finally, this fall, we just decided, let's do something that is more solid with wire fencing, wire mesh that they're hopefully not going to be able to get through. And actually, I was thinking that building a fence like this is actually more aesthetically pleasing than the metal poles that get rusted, and I always thought looked kind of ugly. And we also, I don't know if many of you have had experience with the deer around here, probably you have. But we're very aware that if the fence is only about 6 feet tall, the deer can jump over it. We actually, as we were preparing this application, we ended up finding all kinds of YouTube videos showing the deer sort of jumping from backyard to backyard over their garden fences. And I think that's it.
Anybody else online that wishes to speak in favor?
It doesn't look like we have anybody who's online to speak in favor or against, but what I could ask is if anybody does wish to speak for or against this application, could you please type into the chat box that you do wish to speak or use the raise hand function. If you're on the phone, you can dial *6, *9 lowers it. But in the moment, Mr. Chair, it appears that nobody is in the public wishing to speak for or against this application.
Then we'll open it up for discussion with the committee, discussion, comments, motions, etc.
Mr. Chair, I guess I would ask, outside of the height variance being requested, does the design of the fence meet with all other, intent of the fencing bylaw? For example, no sharp spikes or anything like that. Is there anything about the design that's of any concern?
Judy?
Sorry, just one second. No, I had no concerns that there'd be any sharp or dangerous objects, and that would be part of the approval for the fence. Is that there's no design guideline, but there would be they couldn't have dangerous material, sharp material on the fencing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, and you're right. That's a design question, not a height question. So sorry about that.
No trouble.
I'll make a motion that we accept staff's decision to allow for the increased heights of the fence around the property for the use of basically barricading deer from accessing the garden.
Moved by Brian and seconded by Raymond. Are we ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Having heard none, the motion is
Aye.
carried, and the variance is approved. Thank you. We'll move to item 20-11-02, Tim Hortons St. Andrews variance application.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Vivian Pung at the Regional Service Commission, and I will be presenting on item 20-11-02. Just let me share my screen with all of you. All right. This is a sign variance application by Donna Thompson on behalf of the Tim Hortons restaurant in St. Andrews. The applicant is requesting to replace a drive-through menu board, aka a freestanding sign that is subject to 3 variances. The first variance being requested here is to allow the sign to be 1.847 meters high with a clearance of 77.2 centimeters from its lower edge to the ground. This is slightly higher than what's allowed in the bylaw. The second variance being requested here is to allow the sign to contain electronic messaging and electronic visual display, which is otherwise prohibited in the zoning bylaw. And the last variance being requested here is to allow the sign to be exempt from section 8.11.3 regarding requirements on typefaces, colors, and other style criterion. And PRAC has the legal authority to permit a reasonable variance from the requirement of a zoning bylaw, subject to terms and conditions under the Community Planning Act. And those requirements include the location, dimension, standard of construction, and purposes of advertising signs and billboards. The background here is the restaurant is sitting on two pieces of properties. Both properties are zoned as central commercial. One property is abutting a residential property on one side, but it's being properly buffered, as we can see in the picture. The sign itself is marked by a red arrow on the picture. It's about 35 feet from the abutting, from the adjoining property line with the residential neighbor. The applicant is planning to replace the existing drive-through menu board with a smaller digitized menu board. This is part of Tim Hortons' national rebranding program. So the existing menu board looks like the picture on the left, and the new one will look like the picture on the right. So the new menu board will be shorter and more compact than the existing menu board. In 2017, PAC granted a variance to allow the existing menu board to be installed as the second freestanding sign on site. So establishing on this pre-existing ground, the applicant is allowed to replace this menu board with another one. So the main argument behind the variance request here is the difference between a freestanding street sign and a freestanding menu board. Technically, the menu board being proposed here is defined as a freestanding sign. However, the zoning bylaw really intends to regulate freestanding signs that are located along the street and are directly advertising to the public. This menu board, on the other hand, is located at the center of the property and is only intended to be used by customers using their drive-through service. Therefore, in staff's opinion, certain requirements are not applicable and granting variances will be reasonable. So the first variance is to allow the sign to be slightly taller than what's allowed. So because of the location of this sign, it's not going to be obstructing the view of traffic at eye level, so it shouldn't be a concern of public safety. The second variance is to allow the menu board to contain electronic messaging and visual display. The common problem behind electronic signs are that they usually contain flashing motion and their light can be too bright at night. So this sign being located at the center of the property, facing the rear of the property, it shouldn't cause any increased impact on neighboring properties. In addition, this new menu board is using new technologies to minimize intermittent lighting, and it's able to dim itself at night, so it shouldn't cause nuisance or distractions to the neighboring properties. The last variance is to exempt the sign from requirements on heritage typeface, color, and other style criterion. Again, this sign is not really part of the streetscape, and it will not interfere with the consistency of style in street signs in staff's opinion. And it's probably not going to undermine the heritage character of the town as well, since it's well incorporated into this commercial property. On a broader scale, it's the town's intention to facilitate development in order that the desired employment, shopping, and service opportunities are provided to residents and visitors. In staff's opinion, by incorporating digital signs, it's a reasonable effort to modernize the shopping experience on site. And last but not least, since this sign weighs about 584 pounds, it is subject to the approval of a building inspector upon completion as required by the zoning bylaw. Staff has consulted the town CAO, and the town CAO has no concerns about this development. Residents living within 100 meters of the property have also been polled, and staff received no comment. All in all, staff recommends that the PRAC of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission grant the 3 variances to allow a new and improved digital menu board to be installed at Tim Hortons to replace the existing menu board, subject to terms and conditions, that the final menu board placement be approved by a building inspector, and the final menu board placement does not project. That's all from me.
Thank you, Vivian. Does the applicant wish to present?
Vivian, if you don't mind, stop sharing your screen.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Chair, it appears that the applicant is not here tonight to speak to the file, but if anybody wishes to speak to the file who's in attendance, again, just use the chat function. You can also, I don't think we have anybody on the phone, so yeah, just use the chat function or use the raise hand function, which should be at the bottom of your screen. So just give a moment for folks to.
I'll just take a moment to ask the question then while we're waiting. It's my understanding we can motion the variances separately or as a package. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so just so that the committee members know, you can make a motion for one of the 3 or 2 of the 3 or 3 of 3, or a motion for the package of the 3 variances.
Right.
Okay, so I guess there's nobody online, so we'll open it for comments and questions to Vivian from the committee members.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
For the 3rd requested variance, it's to be exempt from section 811.3 regarding requirements, etc. What exactly are the requirements that that the sign does not meet? And is it an exemption actually a variance? I'm questioning the whole exempt thing. I'm not really sure that I'm comfortable granting exemptions as opposed to the variance. I think I'd rather see that read something like to the satisfaction of the, the development officer or the building inspector, that sort of thing. So what exactly is it about this sign that doesn't meet that criteria, Vivian?
So the requirement of the bylaw is asking the sign to have, first of all, a heritage typeface, and secondly, to have a maximum of 3 different colors and a maximum of 3 different typefaces. So because this sign is a digital menu board, so it's basically a screen. So it's going to have different pictures, it's going to have different text. It will be a rotating advertisement, basically. So it will definitely have more than 3 colors, typefaces, and all that.
Okay. I guess to get back to the exemption thing, I think I would rather see it worded more that we are granting a variance on the 3 colors and a variance on the, those sorts of things, rather than an overall exemption from that entire clause in the bylaw. That's my opinion, and I'm throwing it out there for the rest of the committee to, to think about or comment on.
The question, Vivian, is would this be a matter for the development officer to approve or reject, or the building inspector?
So for the weight part, it's for the building inspector.
Okay, if it was not an exemption, to follow up on the next question, if there was no exemption there, would it be a development officer's ruling or the building inspector's ruling on whether it met the criteria that's required?
Yes.
Yes, what?
So it will be up to so it will be a development officer's discretion to basically decide if the sign meets the heritage typeface or colors or typefaces.
Okay, thank you.
If I could, Mr. Chair, in the language of variance can be used in this case to vary the requirement can include up to eliminating the requirement, which doesn't, I think some people have the notion of variances are a minor adjustment, a dimensional matter from 25 to 5% or something like that. But in the way it works and the way we have understood it is that in New Brunswick context, it's a reasonable variance. So meaning it can be context, case specific, and in some cases where provision may not apply to a particular property based on the situation. The PRAC advisory committee, be it as it may provide relief from a requirement of the bylaw, so far as to even eliminate it entirely. And so that's really what the language is. It is a variance, but it's relieving the property from those requirements entirely if you agree that they don't apply in this situation.
Thank you all.
Vivian, just a quick question. You talked about colors. Basically, I believe you said 3 colors. What's the difference?
Yes, 3 colors.
So what's the difference between that current sign? I think I've seen more than 3 colors on the current sign versus the colors on the new sign. I don't see, other than a different display board, a menu board with, it's still got lights behind it. It's still got black and white text. It's got a variety of colors. It might be a little shorter, but I personally don't see a heck of a lot difference to what's there now.
Yep, I think you are exactly right. So the new sign won't be a significant change from the existing sign, except being shorter and being a digital screen. So what I was trying to say is that because it's a rotating advertisement screen, so it will have more pictures, it will probably have more text. So it's very likely that it's having more than 3 colors. So what I guess the variance is just based on the fact that they will probably be in violation of this requirement.
So the existing one then was probably exempted. Would that be more accurate?
So
to Brian's point, if we don't see any difference in the 2 signs now, that tells me that the existing sign may have been granted a variance or an exemption originally.
So the existing sign has a variance on basically the number of signs. So this property can only have 1 freestanding sign, and the 2017 PRAC variance allows it to have a second one. So that's the only variance that it got.
Okay, thank you.
Personally, I do not see anything outstanding about it. And the only other concern I would have, we got to be, I think, cautious because this is a national chain, and having them to go design a separate sign altogether with different technology would probably make it inconvenient, very expensive, and may discourage other people from coming in with their standard signage, i.e. McDonald's, Burger King, anything, because these companies basically design, well, they're basically a standard, what do you call it?
Well,
Standards.
Yeah, they do, but I know from experience in this one in St. Andrews that that's not a typical Tim Hortons design. So they did design that when it was built to suit the town's requirements as far as the design of the building and so on. So I wouldn't worry about that end of it, but I don't have an issue with any of it, but I'm not opposed to Vance's point as far as changing that. So if somebody wants to make the motion to accept that with a change, is that all right, Alex, or what do you prefer, Vance?
Well, Mr. Chair, you absolutely, whatever PRAC decides. So it's just when you're constructing your motion, you just say, motion to approve the 3 variances or do one at a time. And you can use the language however you see fit. Exempt is not a word that you would choose to say, but you still wish to see the application approved. You can just use different language, I think. But you can also not approve some of the variance requests and take it piece by piece.
Okay, well,
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Alex. Would the if it comes down to getting somebody to approve the requirements for typeface colors and everything else, would that mean the development officer?
So after the sign is established,
No, before.
sorry, you mean like having a sample of the types of typefaces and colors they're going to use before the sign is permitted?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could add a condition where you make the applicant provide, say, a sample of the types of colors and typefaces they're going to use in their digital advertising to the satisfaction of the development officer. That could be the type of language you could include in the conditions.
I don't think near really the number of colors or the type of typeface was my particular issue, but in reading the document, it said to be exempt from these things and other style criterion, which doesn't tell me anything. Like, I know what the height variance is, it's a specific number, but to exempt them from other style criteria, well, I don't know what I'm exempting them from. So if we made it such that whatever these variances are need to be approved by the development officer, then you know, we can put that back to the town or to the staff to you know, keep that in check.
What I could do, if it's helpful, Mr. Chair, would be to show the sections that are being referred to. And I guess apologize if we're being too ambiguous, and it should be clear. I think what we were trying to do is refer to a particular section of the bylaw. So if I display that section of the bylaw, you always cite that section in your motion.
Okay, is there, can I ask a question of you, Alex? Is this thing time sensitive?
Vivian, would you know that?
Not really. They're just in the process of rebranding their drive-through service. So every restaurant is going through this process right now. There really isn't a timeline.
Then what I would suggest or recommend, I don't know if I can do that as chair, but what I would say is that we could have a motion on variance number 1 and variance number 2, and on variance number 3, we could table that to the next meeting so that you could give the criteria that Vance is looking for. That's just a suggestion. If it's not time sensitive, if it is, then we could take the time tonight for Alex to, you know, to show us that criteria. But otherwise, that's one way of dealing with it. So what I'm gathering from the committee members that have spoken is that 1 and 2, they're clear on what they're asking for there, and they can vote in good conscience for that, but they can't on number 3 because they don't know what they're exempting.
I think we're clear. I think Vivian was clear on, you know, on the tricolors and the typeface, etc. That's the intent here, but I don't know what other criteria means, and I'm not sure I want to exempt them from other criteria. And then, you know, you drive by there, and the next thing is you've got some ungodly sign here, and you know, and they've got an exemption from it. So, you know, I think the intention is good, and you know, nobody's trying to get away with anything here or anything like that. It's just a little bit more specific in what exactly we're being asked to grant a variance on. Would be helpful on the third one. But as far as the first 2, you know, no issues whatsoever.
Well, then I would ask for a motion on variance number 1.
I'll move that we accept staff's recommendation on variance number 1.
Do I have a seconder for variance number 1? Seconded by Raymond. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Having heard no opposition, the variance number 1 is approved. I would ask for a motion on variance number 2. Or any further discussion on it.
I'll make a motion to accept staff recommendation on the electronic messaging.
Okay,
I'll second it.
moved by Vance, seconded by Brian. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Variance number 2 is approved and carried. I would ask for a motion for variance number 3. Bear in mind the options that I discussed and that Alex did as well.
Chair, Mr. Chair, are we basically in this case asking Tim Hortons to go back and revise their actual statement?
Not necessarily. It's up to you how you want to modify. We can vote on number 3 the way it is. You can modify it as Alex said with different language. You can make a motion to table it until you get further information from either the staff or from the staff, I think is what we're looking
I
for.
think that's what we're heading for.
Well, it's up to you. It's up to committee to make the motion. Whatever the motion is, we'll vote on it.
Vance, you brought that up. Maybe you could put the words around it.
Well, I would put forth a motion to accept a reasonable variance or up to an exemption of this section 811 of the bylaw regarding these requirements, subject to the approval of the development officer.
Okay? We have a seconder for that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved by Vance, seconded by Brian. And I'm assuming somebody's taking notes here so that we understand what the motion is in the minutes. So the motion is pretty well the way it's written with the add-on of having the other style criteria approved by the development officer. Is that right, Vance?
Yeah, subject to the condition that the development officer approves.
Okay, so we've got a mover and a seconder. Are we ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition. The 3 variances are approved, and number 3 will have some discussion by the development officer as far as the criteria. Okay, so that is that one. We'll move to item 20-11-03. Invite Jill back. Sherry, back, Jill. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your patience.
All right, so it'll be me presenting on item 20-11-03 again. Let me share my screen. All right, so this is another sign variance application submitted by Donna Thompson on behalf of the Tim Hortons restaurant in St. Stephen. And I would like to make a clarification before we proceed our discussion. I made a slight amendment to my recommendation to PRAC upon the receipt of several comments from the public. So I will explain the amendment in my presentation. So if you don't have the most up-to-date version of the report, you don't have to worry about it. So the request here is to replace 3 existing menu boards, aka freestanding signs that require a variance. The variance is to allow the signs to be exempt from section 9.3.21C. No more than 1 freestanding sign shall be permitted for every 30 meters or 98 feet of lot frontage. And again, PRAC has the legal authority to permit a variance from a zoning bylaw. And the requirements of the zoning bylaw includes the location, dimension, standard of construction, and purpose of advertising signs and billboards. Here's some background information of the property. The Tim Hortons restaurant is currently sitting on 3 pieces of properties. All of them are zoned as central commercial. 2 of the properties are abutting a residential property on one side, but the properties are currently properly buffered in accordance with the zoning bylaw. The menu boards themselves are about 60 feet away from the adjoining property line. And all of the 3 menu boards being proposed here are sitting on the same piece of property that are marked on the zoning map on the left. So the plan here is to replace the 2 existing drive-through menu boards and the 1 pre-sale board with similar menu boards that are smaller and digitized. So here, the picture on the top left corner shows the existing menu boards, and the one below that shows what the boards will look like when it's replaced. Bear in mind that the boards will go exactly where the current ones are going. There's no change in location, so it's a direct replacement. And again, this is part of Tim Hortons' national rebranding program. The 3 existing menu boards are considered non-conforming because of their locations. And under section 9.13, non-conforming signs are subject to the current zoning regulations when they are altered or replaced. And that's why we are discussing a variance here. And the main discussion here is also the difference between a street sign and a menu board. So those menu boards are also defined as freestanding signs under the St. Stephen zoning bylaw. But again, they're not located on the street, and they're not intended to be used by everyone. They're only intended to be used by customers driving through, using their drive-through service. So in staff's opinion, to allow this variance on location will not have a negative impact on the streetscape, and it will not obstruct the view of traffic because it's simply not in sight. And most importantly, the new signs should not have an increased impact on the surroundings because of the following reasons. Number 1, the new signs will be smaller and more compact, so lesser light will be emitting out of those signs. Number 2, the signs, again, are using new technologies, so they will be able to dim themselves at night to avoid excess light spill off the premise. So overall, in staff's opinion, it will be reasonable to grant this location variance. And it's the town's intention to encourage businesses to develop and maintain their commercial properties to a reasonable level of aesthetic quality. And by incorporating digitized signs, it will provide a modernized commercial environment on site, which is ideal for both the customers and the town. The town CEO has been consulted, and the town CEO has no concerns about this development. Staff has received a few comments from residents living within 100 meters of the properties, and there are a few major concerns. The first one is regarding light spilling out of the property at the moment. And this has been addressed in the presentation. So to reiterate, this sign will not, not this sign, the 3 signs will not have an increased amount of impact on surrounding properties. In fact, they should have a reduced amount of impact because number 1, they're smaller, and number 2, they are able to automatically dim themselves at night to avoid light pollution. The second major concern is regarding noise coming out of the speaker box of the drive-through menu sign. The town of St. Andrews is in the process of passing a noise bylaw, And in staff's opinion, when this new bylaw comes in effect, this matter should be addressed under this new regulation. And staff has amended the recommendation to PRAC to make sure that the 3 new signs followed all applicable bylaws. And staff is aware that a digital sign. Yes.
Did you mean to say St. Stephen?
Yeah, Town of St. Stephen. Yes.
Okay. Right.
Oh, I probably misspoke. Sorry, it's the Town of St. Stephen. Yes. So staff is aware that there is an increasing popularity of drive-through signs and electronic signs for modern day businesses. And those signs are very special and they should have their specific set of rules. So staff will take this into considerations when revising the new St. Stephen zoning bylaw. So based on the presented arguments, staff recommends that the PRAC of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission grant the variance to allow a new digital menu board to be installed at Tim Hortons as a direct replacement of the existing menu board, subject to the following terms and conditions. Any use of the menu boards shall be compliant with applicable regulations, including the town's new bylaw number S14, a bylaw to prohibit excessive noises. That's all.
Thank you, Vivian. Do we have, does the applicant wish to present, or are there any others online that wish to speak either in favor or in opposition?
Mr. Chair, the applicant is not here tonight, but I do believe we have one of the neighbors who wishes to speak. If you do wish to speak, Carol, could you just do a raise hand or type into chat? Yep, okay. Just a second. Just might have to unmute there, Carol.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, Carol.
Everyone can see me? Can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. On my letter, my first comment was, and I would like for someone to answer this question, is when Tim Hortons replace the first menu board that was there for a long time to those new ones, why did we receive a notice of that? That's my question.
Alex, perhaps you could address that.
Because that would mean to ask for variance, isn't it?
What we're doing here, we're working with the town of St. Stephen to provide them a land use planning service. So this only started this relationship with the region and the town in February of this year. So I believe the signs you're referring to would have been placed under basically under the watch of a different development officer. So I really can't comment as to why it didn't go to the PAC at the time. But we're just making sure what comes before us here is processed correctly according to the bylaws which the Council of St. Stephen has set down. So we just implement what's set down. So as to what was done before, I really can't comment on that.
Okay, thank you. Also, you mentioned the amendment about the noise that the town of St. Stephen is working right now on changing this. Do you know what it will be, like what it will say?
So I can probably answer this question. So the town of St. Stephen is in the process of making a noise bylaw, and it's basically trying to prevent excessive noise. So I believe they're at second reading right now. So it will probably come into effect soon. So when it comes into effect, you can definitely check that bylaw and bring your issue to the attention of council if you have any concerns regarding this new menu board.
Okay, so this noise bylaw, this new noise bylaw is intended for any businesses that makes a certain level of noise around residential properties?
So it's more general than that. It's more broadly preventing any sort of excessive noise, but I can't really give you more detail on that because I'm not an expert of this bylaw, unfortunately.
Thank you. Would you like to add? That's all I have. I think for the light, you mentioned that it was going to be dimmed at night, or it's a bit smaller, more compact. So
yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So the thing is, we're really concerned is the noise. Yeah. Okay. So I hope this amendment will help, that we can have then, you know, we can have something on that, you know, if we need to, if we have a concern at some point. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Your input is very, very much appreciated. So thank you for that. Do we have anyone else that wishes to speak?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chair, but if anybody else wishes to speak to the file, please use the raise hand function, dial *6, or type into the chat that you wish to speak.
Okay, I'll ask Vivian a question while we're waiting for that. Vivian, you mentioned that the lights, the signs have the capability of automatically dimming. Is that road and stone, or would the owner have the option of not doing that? We want to make sure that just because something can dim automatically doesn't mean that it's going to. You have to set it that way. So
Right.
that might be something that we might want to put in the language.
Yep. So the new technology in these signs are automatic. So the sign will adjust its own brightness according to the time of day. So in other words, at night will be reduced in brightness, and during the day it will be slightly brighter.
Yes, but it still has to be set in the settings. Most of this technology still has to, you still have to set it and approve it to do that. In most cases, so that's why I'm asking the question. I mean, I have a vehicle that dims its lights automatically, but I can also set it so that it doesn't.
Right.
So what we want to make sure of is that if that's a condition of it, that language be put in there that makes sure that they are set to dim automatically. That's my comment.
Have you set a certain category?
Yeah. You can set anything you want. So, yeah.
You'd have to insert, I guess, the word, probably the technical term is the amount of candle power after 9 p.m. or dusk or certain time zone. They'll have to be up to town to decide what their variance is going to be. So also goes back to the variance.
Well, I would go along with what the machine will do automatically.
Yeah, that's what
I'm just saying that it should be, we should put in language that it must be set to do it automatically.
Right.
Mr. Chair, if I may, you could always add that as a condition that they apply the dimming technology that's inherent to the application. So as per the application, they use it as per the application.
And it could also apply to the amount of dBs that decibels that the actual intercom will be putting out. That could be set to automatically, maybe day and night. Probably be drowned out by a Softail Harley coming in and distorting the whole system. Other than that, that's up to the town what they want to put in.
Yeah, they can put
And people's voices, the way they use the microphone, all that stuff affects that. So, yeah.
A deaf person even may have to have it turned up so they can hear over the engine. So it's up to the town what they want to, I think, play around that one.
Okay, let's answer my question. So any other comments or questions for Vivian or Alex or?
Is this a 24-hour drive-through, or what, how late in the night are we talking?
Yeah.
I think 24.
It's a 24-hour restaurant, yes.
Okay.
And that's why I think the auto dimming function is really, really important.
Yeah. I don't know about Tim Horton's signs, but just, and I don't want to take up time here, but I know some of the signs, like, for instance, if you look at the one at the high school, sometimes you can buy there.
Yeah, that's great.
And that is really bright. So, you know, that probably has a function on it where you can automatically dim it, but you have to set it to do that. Right? So that was my concern with that.
It's extremely bright.
That's really bright. I don't know how they get anything that bright, but it shows up.
You don't see it.
One at Harvey High School, I think it's the same way. When you buy there, you see it for miles. Anyway, I don't want to waste time here, but we're open for motions.
And Hampton has a similar one.
Mr. Chair, I would put forth a motion that we accept a staff recommendation to grant the variance to allow the new digital sign, subject to the terms and conditions as amended but in the planning presentation with regard to the noise bylaw, and also as a second term or condition, the implementation of the auto dimming functionality must be employed.
I'll second that motion.
Moved by Vance and seconded by Brian Cornish. Everybody's heard that motion. I think that's a decent motion. Ready for the question?
Ready.
Ready? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No opposition to it. The amended, how should I say this? The motion is approved with the amendment that Vance put in there with the automatic dimming and the noise bylaw.
Terms and conditions.
Terms and conditions. So that is approved. We'll move on to item 20-11-04, Percy Vesso. Is that going to be Judy or Alex? Okay, Alex, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an application by Percy Gesso, 12 Davis Lane in Pokalogan, LaPro LSD. So the application is as follows. It's a variance to the minimum size and dimensions of land required to add an attached garage. The attached garage in this case is proposed to be 330 square feet. It's attached to an existing single-family dwelling unit on a lot in an older subdivision that predates the rural plan. And sections 3.41 and 3.44 set the following criteria. It means that no development can occur on a lot less than 54 meters wide, 30 meters deep, and 4,000 square meters where there's no services. But in the case of Mr. Gesso, his property is 27 meters wide, 32 meters deep at the greatest extent, and 631 square meters in area. So property is zoned mixed use, which is the most predominant zone in LaPro. The application, it was submitted to us on September 21st for an attached garage. However, we issued a permanent error out of this office for the attached garage on the assumption that existing undersized lots can be used for development. This provision exists in other rural plans and municipal zoning bylaws, but actually does not exist here. So staff, when we noticed this error ourselves, immediately suspended the permit, and the construction had not substantially proceeded at that point. So basically the work is halted. Reinstatement of the permit and continuation of the work is made dependent on a variance for undersized lot through PRAC. Part of the property is in a buffer zone of a provincially significant wetland. However, the applicant in the original permit request had a permit from Department of Environment and Local Government for wetland and watercourse alteration permit, WALA permit. So this is the the location, Davis Lane. This is a small little cape on the Bay of Fundy, and it's number 12 there. You can see in the top left corner of the what is a bit of a cul-de-sac with a common green in the middle. There's the location of the provincially significant wetland and the buffer, and there's a purple buffer line. So the location of the proposed garage would be at the edge of that. Here's the parcel map, according to Service New Brunswick. Here's the old survey subdivision from the 60s, which subdivided the property. And you can see the common playground, what was a former tourist camp or tourist cabins. They were sold. All the cabins were sold off on the in the spaces which where each cabin kind of occupied were made into individual fee simple lots. But these fee simple lots, of course, do not meet the current subdivision regulation. So this is the applicant's submitted site plan. Now the configuration of this parcel has been a cause of some confusion based on the applicant's drawing. It's not a very accurate drawing. No offense, Mr. Jesso, the way that this is shown, it's led to some people being wondering if this was an accurate information submitted. So this is a more accurate depiction of the location of the house. And so whereas here it looks like the garage is going to be well within 10 feet of a property line, staff's GIS system were able to show that no, it would be the location would be able to be 10 feet from the property line, which is the requirement here when it's on a private lane, not the usual 7.5 meters if it was on a public road. So this is the kind of elevation of the proposed attached garage structure. This is an aerial shot that was taken by me on the site, just showing the property and how it's looks from a bird's eye view. And you can see on the right-hand side where I don't know, you could possibly see it, but there's a blue line there. I think they're staking out the location of the front wall of the garage. However, it could be probably brought in another 2 feet closer to the private lane and still be more than 10 feet from the property boundary of the private lane. Again, just a view from over the water. And you can see the laneway, the driveway exists there, and there's the common green in front of it. So the development location, some concern was whether the proposed garage was in the common green, which would not be allowed, but no, it would be on the applicant's property. Here's a view more from the side. So some of those windows and some of the siding is being, as you can see, they started removing some of the siding when they first received their permit, but when they were informed that the permit is suspended, they stopped removing that. But you can kind of see the laying up the front wall of where that garage structure would be and the approximate depth, I believe. Or sorry, width of the garage, I should say. Just another shot. Here's some of the context of the neighborhood. As I said, it's denser than a typical rural subdivision, and that has to do with historical reasons for how this was developed in the 60s and subdivided. You can see there's quite a number of cottages, some which are owned, some families own multiple cottages, and then some are just individual. But most of these properties are undersized and can't be built on either, according to the rules. So correspondence was received from neighbors within 200-meter notice area. 4 letters were shared with the PRAC in the file folder. 2 were in favor of the development. 2 others relayed favorable views to staff, but only verbally. But there's the objections here summarized. So there's concerns about the information contained in the original application not being accurate. For example, the height, setbacks, the elevation drawings. I did mention the one regarding the setback that we did try to clarify that with one of the neighbors who had concerns about that. There was concerns just generally about the magnitude of the variance request. So basically look at the lot size going from 4,000 square meters to down to 631. There's concerns about the impact on the views of the water from more of the inland lots. There's concerns about added runoff from the garage. There's concerns about the beach stability. There's concerns about the impact on the shared right-of-way to the beach. I can show you, but there's a right-of-way shown in the original plan of subdivision for an old road that would have gone between this property and the house with the yellow siding. And there's a little stairway down there. So there was concern that there was some impact on that. And then there was a concern shared with us verbally about where would there be an impact on the septic system, and this be going over a septic leach field, for example. Okay, so broadly speaking, the mixed use zone allows for single family dwellings as the main permitted use. Proposed attached garage is permitted as accessory to the main use. The attached garages are naturally and customarily incidental, complementary to the main use being conducted. Many people have attached garages. Plans policy calls for residential development that reflects the unique residential neighborhoods that comprise the planning area. So whereas new unserviced building lots cannot be created less than 1 acre, 4,000 square meters, 54 meters wide, 38 meters deep. This lot was created prior to the subdivision regulation of 1980. And as I mentioned, the reasons for these small lots and the history behind this property and this subdivision means that it's a quite dense rural coastal neighborhood, and that is perhaps the unique character of the residential neighborhood in this part of the planning area. But lot minimums exist for purposes other than character, neighborhood aesthetics. They can be necessary for public safety. As to the point about the septic field, we work collaboratively with the Department of Public Safety when it comes to permitting for plumbing. If there was a proposal to add bedrooms, for example, we wouldn't be issuing any permits without evidence of a plumbing permit or written notification to us that no additional approvals are required. And it's worth noting, of course, that given the small size of the lot, there really cannot be any impact on the current septic disposal system or holding tanks. Tried reaching out to the applicant about more information regarding that, but as a general rule, or as a general principle, I included a proposed condition that matter be addressed prior or as part of the approval, that we get a copy of their septic and their plumbing permit, or a written notification that this from the plumbing inspector that this is not going to impact their current system. Variances are applied, of course, in situations that are reasonable, desirable for development of land within the general intent of the rural plan. They can be used for accommodating development where the plan does not adequately take into consideration the unique features or limitations of any given property. It is staff's opinion that both these considerations apply to this application. Desirability as well, just a general principle, is considered from the planning and public interest point of view. It's not really about it's desirable for the applicant to have it. It's more about whether this is an appropriate use for the subject property. And so that's why it's PRAC's discretion on desirability. Staff's recommendation is that the Planning, Review, and Adjustment Committee of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission approve the 3 requested variances aforementioned for 12 Davis Lane, as it's reasonable, desirable for parcel land, and is in keeping with the general intent of the Pro Musquash Rural Plan regulation, subject to the following terms and conditions. 1, that the structure size, height, and appearance be built in accordance with the submitted application, and the structure be located no closer than 3 meters, 9.8 feet to any lot boundary. And 2, if the development includes or will include altering an on-site sewage septic disposal system, then a copy of an approval under a Public Health Act or written waiver from the appropriate department shall be provided to the development officer prior to the permit's reinstatement. And again, I just maybe comment, the first condition was a response to the concerns raised by people in the neighborhood regarding the accuracy of the application, whether it really was going to be 10 feet tall as per the application, and whether the setbacks could be met. So that was the rationale behind the first condition staff are recommending. And the rationale behind the second is regarding the question regarding if there's any impact on septic. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Does the applicant wish to present?
Mr. Chair, the applicant is present. I'm going to promote him to speaking role. So Percy, if you wish to speak, you may choose to. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay. So you ready?
Yes.
Okay, we're both here. As far as the septic is on the other end of the house, on the side of the front door.
Yeah.
So completely on the other side.
Yeah, because the well's on that side.
And
The height's going to be the same height as the house, which is 9 feet or whatever.
and other than that, it's not going to make any difference as far as the right of way to the beach.
It's going to be about 20 feet away from the right of way.
Yeah, about 20 feet away from the right of way. So there's definitely no concerns
With the right-of-ways.
on that.
Yeah. So other than that, it's just a small garage.
Okay. And that's it for us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kessel. Do we have any other person on the line who wishes to speak either in favor or opposed?
Sure, we have two people who have indicated they wish to speak. Phyllis Mite and then Heather Saunier. I'm not sure if they're in favor or opposed. It's hard to tell with Zoom. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to promote Phyllis first and then Heather. Okay, I'm going to promote Phyllis to a panelist role for a moment because she's using an older version of Zoom. Sorry, it's a technological issue.
Unmute.
Phyllis, you're just going to have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. So just you might need to tap. It's probably on the bottom left corner of your screen.
Okay.
There we go.
Are we on?
Yeah.
We are. Okay, thank you. Thank you for them allowing us to speak. We obviously have some concerns about another piece being added on to 12 Davis Lane. It certainly has been somewhat like Topsy. It's grown over the years, and the variances that they're asking for are just too great for an ocean view, in our opinion, for an ocean lot. We are concerned about our well. It's less than 50 feet away from the excavation site, and we are on ledge. So we are concerned about that. the distance from the right-of-way to the garage, the proposed garage, is less than 3 feet. That is, it was stated that it was a driveway road, and it is neither of those. It is a common right-of-way around a common greenway, and it is owned by all people. So therefore, number 12 is definitely not within that 3 feet variance or requested distance. Let's see, what else do I have here? We also have another person who's going to speak for us, so make some points, and that is Margaret Layden. And she may or may not be ready to come on, but our concern is another concern is our view. We've waited since 1969 when we bought the place to build our retirement home and enjoy our ocean view. And this addition will drastically reduce the amount of view that we have. It's already been drastically reduced by the size of the house that's on the undersized lot. And these are all concerns of ours at this time. I can't think of anything else that I have to say. The erosion of the water frontage has been a concern in the past. It is, there was a seawall built in order to keep that from eroding. And we're concerned that with the way that the water is coming in, that the beach will be eroded more. So therefore we're concerned about that, and the amount of weight that is going to be put on that extra piece of that little piece of property, and how that's going to all impact the beach and our ability to use the beach. We also, I believe I heard, and I'm sorry, I have a severe hearing disability, so if I may not have heard it correctly, but was there mention of the yellow house building a stairway to the beach? Did I hear that incorrectly? No. Okay, my husband's saying no, I heard that incorrectly. Anyway, we didn't build stairway, but basically there is a stairway there now. Because of the erosion that took place on the beach, we could no longer access the beach. So neighbors got together and built that stair. Anyway, that's about all I have to say. We do not agree with the variances. It's just too huge a variance, we think, for this subdivision.
Set a precedence.
And so, and that is basically it for me. Okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now.
Click off.
Someone want to tell me what to do? I've never been on Zoom before.
What, Mr. Chair, if I may?
Go ahead, Alex.
So at this point, the committee could ask you a question, or we'll just disable you from a speaking role.
Let them ask you a question. You want to take a question from them?
Yes, okay.
No, or do you just disconnect?
Yeah. Am I on?
Mr. Chair, if the committee wishes to ask them a question, we could take it in that, but then otherwise we can just move on to the next person. Okay.
Doesn't seem to be any questions, so we can move on to the next speaker.
All right.
Thank you, Mrs. Beatty.
I got to keep them in the screen. It's just a technological issue. They're on an older version of Zoom, so they have to be a panelist. But if I remove them, they'll be kicked out of the meeting. So I'm just going to leave them there, although they're not going to be speaking into anymore. So I'm going to Heather Saunier, get you to. Oh, Heather's on the same kind of old version of Zoom. So there we go.
She's on there, but she's muted.
The person with the name Heather Saunier, you're just going to have to unmute yourself.
How's that?
That's good. We can hear you now. Go ahead.
You're speaking.
Yeah, well, I'm speaking for my wife. First point I'd like to do is, and it is the most important point, and I know we get along with all these bylaws and super laws, and I've watched you dissect a sign, which, you know, nobody uses any common sense anymore, but let me try. The granting of this variance could set a precedence for other development on the many small lots in this subdivision, which could result in a major overdevelopment of the area. And I've read somewhere else that we were referred to perhaps an overdevelopment as it is now. So I'll let you guys digest that. And here we go.
I'll just provide a quick response, and perhaps Alex may as well, but for anybody that's listening tonight or online, these decisions do not set precedents with PRAC. We review each individual case and variance that comes before us based on the merits of that individual application. So it would not set a precedent. If another one was to come along, we would review the merits of it. So that's, if you want to add that, Alex? Or?
Well, thank you for that. And I appreciate that.
Okay.
My next point is in the last 10 years, we've suffered major erosion on the beach access. Now, I don't know where that comes from, but what I'm saying is the proposed development of that lot is going to have a lot of runoff. And where is that runoff going to go? I mean, I'm not an engineer or a contractor, but I do know that water runs downhill. So there's going to be a lot of runoff on our beach road. I'm worried about the erosion. I'm done on that point.
Okay. We'll let you move on if you have other points, and when you're finished, we'll have the applicant respond to those concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just have to keep them in they're going to be visible there like Phyllis, just because of the old technology. Now, I understand that Margaret Layden was wishing to speak. Margaret, you haven't indicated in the chat or by raising your hand that you wish to speak, but there we go. Okay. Margaret, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Margaret.
Can you see me?
Here, you go ahead.
Oh, you can hear me? Great. So I'm just speaking on behalf of Phyllis Beatty and her husband. Actually, they pretty much summed it all up, but I guess obviously the certain things that aren't in the Community Planning Act that speak about how a variance can be given is like, was it caused by the applicant? Obviously, the small lot wasn't caused by the applicant, but when he bought the lot, he would have known the size of the lot, which is so much smaller than the requirement of 4,000 square meters or square feet or whatever it is. So I think that that's important to look at, is he would have known possibly and probably, and if not, should have did some research on that, because now he's filling that lot right up. And in doing that, for the benefit of himself and his land, it's becoming a detriment to other people. So a detriment in not only the view, but I mean in the value of these homes that are now going to have the view blocked, because instead of a water view, they're going to have a partial water view. And of course, when you buy a lot that's not right on the water, you assume maybe that's going to happen. So what happens now, though, when we subdivide land, we do restrictive covenants, ensuring that the lot can't be filled up and that the water view can't be totally taken away. So that didn't, like, of course, back then there was no restrictive covenants like that, but why would you do it? And why would you be concerned when you had a lot back, when this lot in front of you was that small, and you knew that there was regulations and bylaws that were going to ensure that it wasn't filled up to the capacity, which is what the Beatties feel that the applicant is doing. So that's the only other thing I wanted to add to Phyllis's thing, is about the benefit, the detriment, and that there's protection now that wasn't there back then when we do restrictive covenants to not block water views. But that was essentially done when the bylaws and all the other procedures were done to ensure a small lot like that wasn't filled up.
What's the deal there?
Does it? I just wanted to add that because I think Phyllis actually spoke quite well on her other concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Did you have anything further?
Me? No.
Okay, thank you for your input into this. It's very much appreciated. Alex, anyone else?
We have somebody calling in on the phone. It's 447-0600. If you wish to speak, I think you can dial *9 or raise your hand. Otherwise, I might just promote you. There we go. Okay.
I need to mute to
Or, yeah, you might have to dial *6 or *9 again.
Are they on the phone?
Yeah, they're calling in from the phone. It's just a little trickier on the phone, so maybe if we give them a moment.
They should be able to mute their phone though. Yeah. I thought I heard them speak, but maybe not.
Dial *9.
There we go.
Hey, it's just Dean. I've been listening on the phone because
sorry, Dean.
Zoom wouldn't work.
Apologies.
I've been emailing Alex, but I can't seem to get the right connection. So I've been listening and voting on the phone, but that's me. So carry on. I'm just following along here.
Yeah, we'll keep you on then. And Mr. Chair, did you want the applicant to speak then?
If the applicant wishes to respond to, I think there were three major concerns there. One was the septic, one was the precedent setting, one was the rest of the erosion and the runoff, and the view. The other issue was one of the people opposed seems to have a different view of how much right of way is there than what the applicant does. So maybe they could clarify that.
Okay, can you hear us? Perfect. Okay, what do you want to say about the runoff?
Oh, the runoff, it's no concern with the runoff because it runs down through my property in the back and down through that wall that I built. So it's no erosion on the right of way. And the right of way is definitely more than 3 feet away. Like I said, it's about 20 feet away from the right of way. And the inspector that was down, he could even verify that because they took pictures. Even look at the blue line on the map. You could see it's more than 3 feet away.
And the drone would have caught that as well.
Yeah, the aerial picture would see it's more than 3 feet away.
So my other concern is, okay, everyone seems to be talking about their view. Well, this piece of property was on the market for about 2 years before we purchased it. And we did add a piece on the other side and went and got variances from the other owners because we were within not quite the right so that was all approved and we did that. So now all we want is a small garage. So if these two people were so concerned about their view when this property was on the market,
they should have bought it.
Why didn't they buy it and split it so nobody in the world could ever build in front of them? And I mean, that's just the thing. Like, everyone still has a view, no matter if we build this little single car garage. We just cut a 50 or 60-year-old tree down for the beaties so that they could see past our tree, which I was against cutting the tree down, but we did so the garage wouldn't be a real hinder. The tree was more of a hinder than what the garage will be. So everybody is just, they're making a big scene really out of nothing. It's really not going to be, it's not that big.
Well, they could pay some of my property tax if they're telling me what to do with it.
That's enough. So we're done with that. I just wanted to say that because the tree that was affecting the yellow house is now gone, that we removed for them.
Yeah, and the thing is, with the small lots, the size of look at the square footage of the houses that they built compared to mine. Mine is 900 square feet. What's the square footage on their houses? Are they concerned about the size?
We have a little two-bedroom house. That's all we have.
They know the square footage.
You know it.
9 square foot compared to the 2-story houses that they built. Were they concerned about the views?
Okay, we're finished.
We're done.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
Mr. Chair, I think the public speaking portion is done. I get it the way.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Sorry, the public speaking portion is complete at this point because the applicant spoke. Those who in favor or opposed spoke, and now the applicant is.
So I just want
to try to remind those who are in a panelist role, you need to stay muted to keep order of the meeting. So I had to keep muting you. Please keep order of the meeting.
I didn't quite get to the last line. Was that?
Just, sorry, Mr. Chair, just just the public speaking portion would be concluded with the applicant giving the final response.
Okay.
So there's nobody else who's in line to speak.
I tried to speak.
Excuse me, can you hear me?
No, they can't.
We were cut off, as were the Beatties.
Yes.
I don't know why. We did not finish our presentation. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ms. Anya, and I believe
Okay, fine.
you had the opportunity to
Would
speak.
you tolerate me finishing?
No, the public portion of the meeting is done. Everybody's had their opportunity.
This is wrong. You cut us off before we finished. How can you say it's finished, the public portion? We weren't allowed to speak our ground. That is not right.
I spoke 2 points, but
I
you cut
had
us
5
off.
points before you cut me off. I got 3 more.
I'm not going to debate this. Mr. Sanya, you give us 2 points, and you told us you were finished.
No, we did not say we were finished in any way. I'm sorry, we did not. This is not a good way to conduct business. I am phoning my MLA.
That's perfectly within your prerogative to do that.
Certainly is.
The public portion of the meeting is complete. We are opening this up now to the committee.
Crap.
Questions, comments, or motions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Alex.
Yep.
Alex, did you say there was a Wawa permit issue?
There is, and the permit does cover the proposed garage, yes.
I'm assuming that they would have checked for sewage, they would have checked for runoff. Dealing with Wawa permits myself, that's what they look into. Is that correct?
They definitely deal with the runoff as it relates to the construction phase.
Thank you.
Alex, do we have a letter from whoever, Heather Saunier?
I think it's under the name of Heather Saunier. We
have one from the Beatties.
From the Beatties?
Yeah, we do have that.
Joy Baird and Maxine Carr.
Yeah. Okay.
Alex, can I ask a question? Can you hear me all right?
You go through the chair.
He did.
I did. Alex, is there anything in the bylaws about the statement of building a structure in front of a previous structure that blocks the view of ocean or other scenery? Is there anything written in the bylaws that is prohibited or can be contested?
Yeah, not that staff, not the way staff interprets it. This is, I think, inevitable with oceanfront properties that develop that you do end up blocking the view from those behind you. The undersized lot issue, in staff opinion, is the more the concern with the undersized lot issue is with population density as opposed to the visual impact. Now, visual can be a concern if it is an appearance of overcrowding, but that's what I looked at particularly when I visited the site and considered the history of the subdivision, and it's always been this way. It's always been quite tightly compact, but if this was an application to add bedrooms, let's say, or to have a second floor, to have a second suite, the variance would be extreme, and we would recommend against it. But because it's not adding population density, staff's opinion is that it doesn't go against the general intent of the rural plan.
I noticed to the left on the picture of the residence, I believe it's to the left, there were several, probably of the existing cottages that were there several years ago. Are they permitted to expand in any way, or are they restricted to the current size of their residence now?
Good question. All the properties in there have different configurations, but there are definitely some in the same situation as Mr. Jesso's property, because the configurations in most of those lots weren't 54 meters wide, 38 meters deep, or 4,000 square meters in area. If you don't meet any of those three, then you cannot develop your property in any way. That means no new alterations, structural. You can maintain the property. You can add your, fix up your siding, do a new roof and roofing material, but you can't add a new addition, for example, if you don't meet any of those requirements. And that's why most rural plans or zoning bylaws allow provision for existing undersized lots, so that you can develop existing undersized lots. We just don't want to create new undersized lots to develop on. But how you deal with the ones that exist, that's where you have tools like the variance power under the act to look at that. But some bylaws allow development on these existing undersized lots by right.
So just in conclusion, then, the proposal that's before us tonight really does not break any of those rules or regulations. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's staff's opinion that it meets the general intent of the rural plan, given the scope of the project. If the scope of the project was different, or they were trying to do something different, maybe that would be a different conclusion.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
Questions? Raymond, one more please, Alex. Can you show the overview again that you had of the aerial? I just want to see, they're talking about the right of way, one saying 3 feet, one saying 20. I'd just like to see that for myself.
And maybe worth noting that there's different discussions about which right of way is being talked about, because I'll show you in the image here.
And had like a property line around it, so it would give us an idea. Yeah.
But we were seen on Facebook by, I don't care.
Sorry, I'm going to have to ask Mr. and Mrs. Saunier that for this portion you keep muted. Because of the technology, if I disable you talking completely, you'll be kicked out of the meeting, and I don't want to do that. But I want to keep order, help the chair keep order of the meeting. So please, I'm going to ask you to keep it muted. Thank you. So there's a right-of-way shown here on the old plan of subdivision. Now, this is a very old plan of subdivision, but there's a set of stairs that go down to the beach for the use of, that's been in there for the use of residents for quite some time. And this is an old road that I think existed at one time that could cross the pond over tidewater. So I'm going to show you what that looks like on the site. And that would be, that they're referring to the right of way 20 feet to the beach here. And they show that their structure will be 16 feet at least, or plus or minus, sorry, rather, from that right of way down to the beach. But there's also the discussion right of way being the driveway too. So just be aware that discussion from the neighbors has been on both topics. We looked at the
on the deed, because I know we have that issue beside where I'm at. There's a right of way on the deed. One is a right of way for access, and one is a right of way for storage.
Oh, well,
correctly, that it is not on the right of way.
all I could tell was that there was a right of way mapped, and I don't know. I didn't see anything language in the deeds about the right of way. It's just on the old subdivision map, it's shown. So I'm not going to make an opinion about that right away, but it's just that as far as I think the neighbors are concerned, this is that set of stairs is where the right of way, what it's for, and
Is it coming right off the end? Is it coming off? Yeah.
Thank you, I think a better view right there gives us a better idea.
You're okay now, have you got?
oh, okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear. There's a couple people talking. I couldn't hear well.
If I may, Alex, both right-of-ways are included in the land titles description for the property. Another question, Mr. Chair. The proposed garage is meets the setback requirement. So I know there was a lot of chatter about overcrowding an already small lot, but if the addition of the garage, if the garage fits within the regulated setbacks, then the size of the lot really is irrelevant. It would be the same setback regardless if it had been 54-meter lot.
Mr. Chair, if I may. There's part of the confusion came from the site plan that was submitted to our office. It showed it made it appear that this was going to be much closer than 10 feet to the driveway, but staff, when we reviewed it, we looked up on our GIS system that they have more than the 10 feet to work with for how they're proposing to configure that garage. So yeah, in this setting, given that it's a private lane, if it was a 54-meter, 38-meter depth, 4,000 square meter lot, they could still have a garage 3 meters from the property line. That would be by right.
Thank you, Alex. Just as a note, Alex, that I know that other people are trying to talk in there, but I'm not hearing them before you are. So you'll have to mute them because we sort of get a delay there. If I was hearing them first, I would ask them not to speak, but you're getting it first, so you're the boss. So if there are no other questions, then I'll leave it up to the committee members to make a motion either for or against.
I'll make a motion that we go with staff recommendation that the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee and Southwest Planning Commission approve the 3 requested variances on 12 Davis Lane. And it's reasonable desired for the parcel of land, and it's to keep with the general intent of the LaPro Musquash Planning Area Rural Plan.
Subject to the terms and conditions.
Subject to terms and conditions.
Okay, it's moved by Brian to accept staff's recommendations, subject for the variances, subject to the terms and conditions as the staff has prepared this, and seconded by Raymond Hall. Are we ready for the question? All in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand if you don't mind.
Aye.
Aye.
Dean, I assume, okay. Are there any opposed? The motion is carried unanimously, and the variance is subject to the terms and conditions as set out by staff is hereby approved. So we will move on to, where's my pen to go here? Views on bylaws and regulations, item number 5.
We have one of those that I'm going to present. I'm going to appear magically.
You've got the floor.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Evening.
We're going to be talking about views on a rural plan, a new rural plan for the village of Harvey. So it was either last month or the month before. You heard, you gave views on a bylaw for Harvey that was the rezoning of some agricultural land. When we received that rezoning, it brought up some questions in the office about the loss of agricultural land in the village of Harvey, and if that was something that the village wanted to look at maybe preserving. So we spoke to the village about that, and there was the desire to do that, as well as allowing appropriate agriculture activities in residential zones. Currently, I guess a vegetable garden, that's considered an accessory use to a residential main use, but any kind of raising of livestock or anything like that wouldn't be allowed. And we've seen throughout the region, as well as the clerk of the village told us as well, that she had experienced people calling, asking about the ability to homestead in the village. It's very well situated given its location to Fredericton, but still being of a rural nature, that there's a lot of potential for growth. When we sort of opened the plan up, we found a few other issues as well. The village had a few issues they wanted looked at, some legally non-conforming properties. The current rural plan does not allow apartment buildings with more than 4 units. And if you've ever driven through Harvey, you'll notice that there is one right on the main street there that's clearly more than 4 units, and there might be more in the future. So most of what I'll talk about tonight is dealing with the agricultural side of things. We added some new definitions. We've got a bit of a Noah's Ark here of different kinds of how many of these different types of animals counts as a unit, an animal unit. The way that zoning deals with animals is, they don't have an equal impact. One chicken is not equivalent to one cow, so they're defined in this way to sort of make them equivalent. I won't read through all of the definitions. They're all just sort of, we're adding these words into the policies and zoning regulations, so they need to be defined. Getting into the new policies, we realized that there were 2 zones in Harvey, a rural zone and an agricultural zone, that were very, very similar. So it made sense to collapse them into a agricultural, rural, and resource zone that is essentially the same as both of those were before. It's just simpler to administer this way. And it's in this zone, it's protecting viable farmland, establishing a green belt, encouraging efficient, compact, and serviceable development patterns. So not only when you enact these kind of policies are you protecting farmland, you're also you're making development more feasible in places where you have established development, where there are services, where you might be able to walk to the grocery store, convenience store, and not be all the way out on the edge of town. So in this zone, it's primarily forestry, agricultural, recreational purposes, as well as conservation. You can have a secondary use of a single family home, institutional development, recreational uses, or public utilities, as long as that main use is an agricultural, a resource, or conservation use. Excavations subject to rezonings, essentially development agreements, and whatever provincial regulations apply. Mobile homes or mini homes were allowed in these zones before, so it makes sense to allow them, but it would be subject to a development agreement depending on where they are. If they're close to the road, the village might have more concerns. And then the height limits to 10 meters, excepting churches, barns, and silos. And the zone itself, what's allowed and what isn't. So I sort of explained this already, and main use is agricultural, forestry, and I'll explain that subject to in a minute. Conservation use, secondary uses, recreational, community, public utility, any institutional use, single family dwelling, and then standard accessory buildings. Number 2 here, that's worth noting. This is sort of the way that greenbelt is created by not allowing subdivisions to more than 1 hectare in size. So you can't subdivide land in the zone to under a hectare. And that means the land stays intact for forestry use or farming use that requires larger parcels of land. That's one of the prime ways that agricultural land is lost over time. It's subdivided into smaller and smaller parcels until it's not viable for farming anymore. And then that 10-meter height. So this is that subject to. Now this is a general provision. So these would also apply in residential zones. Now they're sort of scaled. So as the lots get bigger, there's more you can do. If you're under a hectare, you're allowed chickens and that's it. And I'll explain that section in a second. Once you get over a hectare, you can have 5 animal units for every acre. And this is really important. Any livestock facility, that being either a barn where animals are kept or pasture areas, that has to be 90 meters away from an existing well, water course, or lot line of an abutting residentially zoned property. That's very important for public health and safety. And then this is the keeping of urban chickens. And these are fairly standard regulations for chickens. They're similar to the ones that exist in St. Stephen and St. George. And those municipalities have had, I'd say, a lot of success with these. People have chickens, they're not causing an issue. You don't allow roosters, you ensure that the lots are big enough. There has to be a coop, the chickens have to be kept in it when they're not in the yard. And regulates where that's placed. Just a few other changes here to the residential zone. Dwelling of more than 4 units, subject to terms and conditions, as may be imposed by the advisory committee. So if anybody's looking in the future to develop more than a 4-unit dwelling, then they'd be coming to y'all for terms and conditions. And then with those legally non-conforming properties, we looked at all the ones that council had suggested. A lot of them made sense. They, were residential properties in the agricultural zone. And this is another one of the reasons that we wanted to introduce more agriculture into the residential zones as well. There were some businesses that were didn't quite meet the definition of home-based business. But we're still not impactful enough to be an issue in residential zones. And then there were some that, might be a mechanic in a very residential area. That's going to be left as legally non-conforming. So when that use ceases, it won't revert. The land use will have to revert to a residential use. So here's that new zoning map. And along the outskirts of the village, that's that new ARR zone. But all that area was either an agricultural zone or a rural zone before. And that's really the bulk of it. We're recommending that PRAC provide its written views in favor of this bylaw. We've been going back and forth with the council on it, and I think they're pretty happy with it. Well, we have a public hearing planned for next week, and I think it's a good bylaw that really prepares Harvey for the future in terms of preparing for growth, who might want to come and live there, and having the appropriate places, and a zoning bylaw that allows for the kinds of things that more and more people are wanting to do in areas like Harvey, like agriculture. So I'll leave it there, stop sharing, and happy to take any questions from PRAC at this time.
Okay, thank you, Xander. So what we'll do here is we'll have any questions to Xander. We'll have a brief discussion. And if we need to discuss it, then I'll canvass each committee member separately for their views and get to a consensus if we can.
Mr. Chair,
Certainly.
Alexander, this makes it sound like a stupid question, and it probably is. We keep referring to these chickens, and I can see them having collars with tags on them for identification. But I seen something the other day. I experienced a car years ago running into the side of a horse that ran up in front of them. Damage was the car and people. Horse was killed. I've seen other things on the highway, i.e. deer, which we have no control over. But the other day I experienced, believe it or not, I heard a chicken crossing the highway, and a lady put the blinders on and almost, the person behind her almost took the rear end of her car off. Like, are there any bylaws concerning chickens? I mean, seriously, they seem to be quite common in towns and everywhere. They're running loose, and they're actually, in this case, could have caused a severe accident. So,
Well,
do we tell them or not?
When you want to know how to cross the road.
Yeah, we want to know.
that's not a stupid question at all. There usually isn't what you call a chicken bylaw. They're often animal control bylaws. But what's important in the zoning is that the chickens are required to be kept in a yard or in a coop. So if they are running around, if they're crossing the road, maybe causing a nuisance, then that's an issue for enforcement. And that property owner, depending on the village or the town or how they feel in enforcing it, maybe they might get a warning, but eventually they might lose the right to have their chickens if they're continually causing problems. So that's, the problem it's a retroactive enforcement, I guess, but that's how it would be dealt with if a situation like that arose.
So the individual that puts the binders on the car and does not kill the chicken and destroys the person's car behind them in front of them, that person that's the owner of the chicken is responsible for that accident? Is that under their house insurance?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that's a question for an insurance agent. I'm certainly not one of those.
I'll get off the subject, but it's not funny, but.
No, and I have to, the wild turkeys, I'm watching out for the wild turkeys all the time. So adding more things to the road. It is very important that if people have livestock, they are kept secured and they're not running around. So that's something that would and should be enforced.
I just wanted to make sure that people are doing this are well aware of that they are responsible for their chickens.
Yeah, well, that's go ahead.
Speaking to that, I am a chicken owner. I do have them. In the bylaws of St. George, it says they have to be out in the back of the property. So that helps alleviate moving them, letting them getting out and going towards the property. Depending on the size of the property, it's the back of the property.
Yeah, and I think it's the same. I think we.
All right.
Yeah, the chicken coop has to be kept in the rear yard. The chicken coop and the run have to be in the rear yard.
So there are provisions in there then for control. Okay. Enforcement's not our issue. So any other questions? Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'll canvass each committee member, and I'll start with Jill. You wish to express a view, Jill?
No, I'm of the mind that we should just provide our views in favor. Looks like a lot of cleanup going on in the Harvey area. So yeah, I think we should go ahead and submit our views in favor.
Thank you, Jill.
Yeah, I have no problem with the way it's written, and especially where he's got stuff in there about containing the animals at some place on your property is good, because there is a lot of free range hens, turkeys, geese, and everything else in the area I live, and I'm forever keeping an eye open for them. So anyway, other than that, no, I think it's fine the way it's written.
Okay, Vance?
I agree with Jill. I think we should provide comments in favor.
Okay, thank you. Dean?
I'm in favor.
Okay, is that everybody that's online?
Yep.
Okay, so the committee members are present. Brian?
Yeah, I agree with Jill. I think it's a good start.
Raymond?
I'm in favor.
Dennis?
Favor.
And I'm personally in favor of it. So I would, we had consensus that we would provide staff to prepare a letter to the Harvey Town Council with our approval of this, our recommendation for them to move forward with it. Okay, so that is rules and bylaws and regulations. Next meeting time and location. Are we having one in December or is it too close? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Sure, we do have files that were considered for September, so that'd be, or December, that'd be December 17th. So we are getting closer to the holidays there, a week before Christmas festivities. So if we can't, if we don't have enough people, we might have to postpone, I guess.
I think we had it on the 19th last year, didn't we?
I think it should be based on the need of the customer. In this case, it could be something that's.
Yeah, well, I don't have an issue, just as long as everybody.
Hey, we're not going anywhere.
No.
But, maybe you could bring in a turkey or chicken for lunch.
If everybody's happy with that date, and then I have no issue with it.
Yeah, well, in my case, like tonight, I'm in Quispamsis. So if we have something to do on the 17th, we can always take our laptop with us.
Okay. Okay.
I think we should find out how many chickens are running around first.
Well, that's an animal unit. That's not a chicken.
I hope we learn.
Okay, well, so we set the time and location then for the 17th, and we'll accept your motion. Yeah, it'd be the same deal, yeah. As far as I know, unless COVID regulations change or something. So right now, the province is in a bit of a precarious position right now when it comes to the COVID. Now, they put nothing back in New Orleans today, and they just took them out of it last week. So, it's hard to I think there were 9 cases in the St. John's.
Does that mean we can't try? We're not supposed to go to nothing but
well, I can't speak for your costs, but basically they would encouraging people not to travel to that region unless it's essential.
They were in St. George yesterday, going door to door to all the businesses.
They were here today in St. George. They were in some of the restaurants, the restaurants and so on. So,
are we adjourned?
In town here yesterday got notified that they didn't start following protocol. Some people are coming in without their mask on and also doing other things. The staff was wearing a mask below their nose.
Yeah.
And they said the next time they come back, if they do see it, it's $10,000 fine.
Yeah.
Well, they're really tightening her down.
Alex, you have a.
I was just wondering if I think Dennis did a motion to adjourn. Did it was that seconded or is that?
We don't need a second.
Oh, okay. So I'm just going to stop recording then for now. Okay. See you all.
Alex, is there room for one more here?
We've measured out and 4 people and fit in that room with the distance requirements. But potentially, if the doors were open, we could add another. There's a practical limit too, because like going to the bathroom, you just want to reduce density, right?
Yeah, one person can be here by the doors there, Alex.
Well, as long as they can hear, remember last meeting, Jill couldn't hear me from sitting back there, so I had to move up, so I don't know.